Well, hi you beautiful New Zealanders. Today the video is about the Treaty Principles Bill again, and more corruption is inevitable with what just came out in the New Zealand Herald, and I'm going to tell you about that, and here is why. So, what's in the box today? In this video I explain how the Treaty Principles Select Committee has announced that too many submitters have requested oral submissions. They can't hear them all, they say. MPs will pick who can make an oral submission and who can't. I explain how this opens the door to more corruption, and I offer a solution as to what ought to have been done. So watch. Well, here are the numbers. The Herald reports that in a press release yesterday, the Treaty Principles Select Committee confirmed it will hear 80 hours of oral submissions across 4 weeks. This translates to 20 hours a week. In turn, this translates to 4 hours a day if MPs work 5 days. If each submission is 5 minutes plus questions, then allow 10 minutes. Organisations get 10 minutes plus questions, so allow 15 minutes for them. If each day of oral submissions is a mix of 5 and 10 minute slots, the committee would expect to hear 8 times 15 minute slots and 12 times 10 minute slots in a day. So 20 oral submissions a day or 80 per week. That's just the numbers. Times 4 weeks is 320 oral submissions from a mix of organisations and individuals. There you go. Right. Really, this is pathetic given that public interest is at record levels in this bill. No other bill in New Zealand's history has received such attention. The excuses made that the budget only allows for this number of oral submissions truly is pathetic. But really, honestly, like I just said, this too is pathetic, and obviously it isn't true. Look at these examples of what has recently been funded. This is December the 4th, 2024, so it's very recent. This is wasteful spending number 1. Recipient Dr. F. Meyer, University of Auckland. His project was using virtual reality to combat racial bias, immersing teachers into their Maori student worlds. And then there's a bit of a blurb about it. This study seeks to address racism towards Maori in the education system by placing teachers in a VR simulation designed to embody a Maori student facing bias across multiple life situations and hear the student's internal monologue to understand the impact of racism. Seriously, nearly $1 million for that claptrap. Number 2. Here's another one. The recipient, Associate Professor N.A. Tassel Matua, Massey University, linking celestial spheres to end-of-life experiences. And here's the blurb. This research investigates what compelled Maori to link the celestial sphere, that's Matariki in particular, with death. The research hopes to rekindle the ancient connection to the stars and reimagine the meaning of death. Nearly $1 million, 861,000. Absolute claptrap that they just gave away that money, our taxes. Wasteful spending number 3. Recipient Professor L.J. Marriott, Victoria University. The project researching a Tītariti affirming tax system design. Here's the blurb. Maori voices have been largely absent from discussion on tax policy in Aotearoa. This research project will investigate current and historical relationships between Maori people and government tax with the aim of proposing new Tītariti affirming tax systems. This internationally grounded research will take inspiration from other countries with co-designed tax systems that affirm the rights of Indigenous people. $853,000. Have you ever heard of anything so more ridiculous? Truly, the tax system is already favouring Maori. If you go onto the IRD site, I've been through this on one of my videos. Maori businesses pay 17% tax, everybody else in the 30s. A lot of Maori corporations don't have to pay tax. They've been set up as charities. They've already done this. So this is basically just gifting L.J. Marriott $850K. So when they say there's not enough money around, look what they're frittering it on. Come on, it's pathetic, truly. The money is there. Luxon could easily allocate funds to allow for all oral submissions to be heard. So why doesn't he? As I have said in my previous video on this subject, Luxon has to get the result which will make him come out of the select committee process smelling like roses. What result is that? That the majority of Kiwis don't support the bill. He's got to get that result. Why must he get this result? So he can say, see, I told you so. I was right all along not supporting the bill. The people of New Zealand have spoken, and he'll just revel in that. This then will be the excuse to not have a referendum on the treaty, which he wants to avoid at all costs. Can you see how this works? How this has all been stitched up? how he's been rigging the result? Well, MPs to choose a submission. The Herald newspaper article goes on to explain submitters in the first week will be nominated by the members of the committee, which features politicians from all 6 of the parties in Parliament. Then it goes on to say it's understood each party will be able to pick 25 submissions each. Well, this only accounts for 150 submissions in my calculations. What happens to the other 170 submissions? Well, we're just not told. Nonetheless, you can see how this process will be open to corruption. Each party is highly likely to choose submissions which support their party position. What do I mean? Well, it's obvious. The likely reality is this: Labour is against the bill, so will likely choose 25 submitters who are against the bill. The Greens, Te Party Māori, National and New Zealand First are the same. It's 5 parties against the bill, so potentially 5 times 25 is 125 out of 150 oral submissions will be chosen against the bill, or 83% of submissions. ACT, we know, is the only party supporting the bill. Presumably they will choose 25 submissions which are in favour of the bill, or just 17%. What about if it's a 50-50 situation? But what say each party is told to pick 50-50 for and against? 25 is not an even number, so it won't work well neatly, at least. But let's say this is how they choose the submitters or submissions. As I said, politicians will be very keen to make sure they choose submissions which support their party position. So if you were a politician picking 50-50, what would you do? Come on, tell me what you would do. If it were me, I would look for weak submissions or submissions from crazy people who were against my party position. Conclusion? Asking politicians to pick and choose, once again, opens the submission process to massive bias, if not fraud. Bureaucrats are the first layer of selection. Here's some more alarming news. It gets worse. The Herald article goes on to say House of Representative Clerk Dr. David Wilson, a bureaucrat, whose office is responsible for processing the written submissions, said select committee staff would manually assess every submission to, quote, ensure they are relevant, do not contain unparliamentary material or natural injustice issues. What the friggin' heck does that all mean? That's just a word salad, and it's very, very subjective and shouldn't have been accepted. Okay, before providing them to committee members. All available staff in the office of the clerk will be involved in this process, Wilson said. He acknowledged it would take longer and require more resources to process the submissions, but committed to meeting the increase within his office's current budget. Oh yeah, come on. We've just looked at the budget, mate. That's a big sham. It was understood about a dozen people in Wilson's office were involved in processing the submissions. Well, I just thought about that. With 330,000 submissions and 12 staff, that means every staff member, each one of those 12 people, will have to sift through 27,500 submissions per staff member. Come on. Honestly, is this a joke or not? Because I've seen some of these submissions. People send me their submissions. Some of them are 20, 30 pages. So what are we to make of this? Well, Mura Newman in her latest piece made a very good point. She said, in government but not in power. She made this statement. What's she talking about? Well, Dr. David Wilson and his staff's involvement in the submission selection process raises other issues. Like what? Well, bureaucrats, not MPs, are running the country. This is what Muriel is really saying. The following is what Muriel Newman writes. She said this: all too often that's MPs, policy changes fall short on deaf ears. They, MPs, are battling a state sector that is largely hostile to anything that threatens their deeply rooted commitment to the agenda put in place by the Ardern government. With too many ministers not following through to ensure the changes they have introduced are being enacted as proposed, there are now claims that the coalition is in government but not in power. Wow. So what she's saying is the bureaucrats are running the country. It's not the MPs at all. And because you've got weak MPs in there who don't follow through on their instructions to the bureaucrats get to rule. This is what's happening. Is Muriel alone in this view? Well, no, she's not.
Why will white bureaucrats from Wellington turn up at the Hikoi tomorrow? I'll tell you why. Because they're the bastards, and they are, I use that word in the proper sense. I don't mean as not having a mother and father, I mean not having a mother and father hinged in reality. They're the bastards who in actual fact have been unilaterally in the dark, secretly, and with impunity, creating the principles of the Treaty of Waitangi for the last 50 years. And they do not want to give up or surrender any of their power at all. So there'll be tons of bureaucrats who are going to end up on the front lawn of Parliament tomorrow because they are have been sabotaging and subverting the democratic process for the last 50 years on this issue, and they want to still have that particular privilege. They are enemies of democracy, the public servants of this country. They are the enemies of democracy, particularly those at the higher echelons of, because they don't want the elected representatives of the New Zealand people to determine what the principles are. They want to do it for themselves. In a funny sort of way, you could understand where the leaders of Te Pāti Māori and the leaders of the Hikoe might be coming from. You're going to mess around with our power, but you're starting to get something, you're going to play around with it. Oh, we're not happy. I can sort of understand that. But the real flies in the ointment, I was going to use another word once, another particular analogy, but I won't. But the real people who are in the background, turning up the heat, are the white bureaucrats of Wellington, the white woke bureaucrats of Wellington. They are the people you need to be most concerned about because they support this hikoe, almost to an individual, on the basis of we've been running the show for the last 50 years, independent of Parliament and the democracy of this country. We want to continue to do so as well. So when you look at all the white people in the crowd at the hikoe tomorrow, just ask them where they work. It'll be the Ministry of Education, it'll be Treasury, it'll be the Ministry of the Environment, Rangatamariki, it'll be all the woke departments sending along their finest and not so fine to espouse a simple argument. We know best, and for God's sake, you parliamentarians and you elected officials, stick out of it. We're running the show. That's what tomorrow's about.
What's the summary of all this? This Treaty Principles Bill submission process is doomed to fail for 13 reasons, and here they are. In my previous video, I detailed 5 of those reasons. First, people making online submissions did not have to formally identify themselves. No passport or driver's license was required. You could be an international from overseas, you could be from anywhere. You could be a dead person, you could be a child, you could be whatever. Number 3, the information required by the government website was too limited. They just asked for your name and email address only. That's unbelievably inadequate. It was dead easy to make multiple submissions with multiple fake names and email addresses. It was too easy for machines, that's bots, to make thousands of submissions. The process was so loose it appears these machines were actually invited to do what they did. Number 6, Luxon, falling in the polls, is desperate to get a result which will vindicate his stance of not supporting the bill. He can then say, "I told you so." Number 7, he simply can't afford a big win for those supporting the bill. Why? Well, he would not be able to avoid a referendum if that happened. If there was an unprecedented number of people supporting the bill, then you know what, he'd be forced to trigger a referendum. And man, does he not want that. A referendum would result, without doubt, 100% support for Seymour's bill. People would say, we want Seymour's bill to become law, and they would gun for that. And Luxon knows this. Number 10, bureaucrats will be selecting which oral submissions to accept and which not to accept, and they will be giving their selections to MPs. That's a big red flag. Number 11, MPs are then going to select which ones they want to hear and which ones they don't want to hear. 6 parties are involved in this MP selection process. That is a really big red flag as well. This means 5 out of 6 are known to be against the bill. That's parties. So it's highly likely they will favour the oral submissions which align with their party position. We talked about this. You know what? It's hard not to think that. That's what's going to happen. That's a big red flag too. Number 13, only a limited number of oral submissions can be heard because of budget constraints, they say. Well, we know that's just a big excuse. We know there's money in the pot. We know they can drag money from everywhere if they want it. But you know what? National Party doesn't want it. They want to get this over and done with as fast as possible and mop up and move on. That's what's happening. The real reason is that National wants to rig the result. Really, the whole affair is one big sham. You know, that's what it really is. Honestly, it's shameful what's going on here. So what's the conclusion? Conclusion, The entire Treaty Principles Bill submission process looks structured to favour those against the bill. It looks rigged to deliver those against the bill a big win. The stakes are high. If those against the bill win big, Luxon wins big. If those in support of the bill win big, Luxon will be catapulted into a crisis. With Nationals tanking in the polls, Luxon can't afford this result. I'm telling you, he'll be biting his fingernails to the bone. He and his MPs and the bureaucrats will be working behind the scenes to make sure he gets the result he must have. And isn't that the truth? You know what? The big issue for me is this. Where are the MPs who truly want to find out the will of the people and do the will of the people? Where are they? Ardern couldn't care less about the will of the people. Luxon is turning out to be the same. You know what? Luxon and Ardern came to the power was secretly to push their hidden ideological agendas. What we need in this country is a complete MP reset. Wouldn't you agree? Remember the famous words of Abraham Lincoln when he said that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people shall not perish from the earth, unquote. This was his, you remember his Gettysburg Address, November the 19th, 1863. Well, you know what? We desperately need this in New Zealand now. Instead, we've got government of the Prime Minister, by the Prime Minister, for the Prime Minister. It's all so wrong. Okay guys, that's enough for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Now we need your help with something. This is important. We have produced some great flyers and brochures which we want to get into the hands of all New Zealanders. So we need to go around the mainstream media. They're not going to help. In fact, they're making things a lot worse. So we have to go around them. And we need your help to make this happen. We can't do this without you. So what are we talking about? First, there is our business cards. They're only 3 cents each plus courier to get them to you. Then there is our latest booklet called The Psychology of Takeover, 19 strategies Maori activists are using to take over the country. It's 80 pages and packs a huge punch. So they're cheap, they're $3, and they're absolutely fantastic if you want to get a handle on what's actually happening in New Zealand. Then we have a few thousand of our original Stop Co-Governance booklets left over from my tour in 2023. Remember these? You'll remember we printed 550,000 of these. Well, these are now free because we realized that only about a third of New Zealand houses got this booklet last when I did my tour, and so we want to get to the other 2/3. So if you do a few streets around where you live, that would be absolutely phenomenal, and they are free now. Then we have our MACA, that's Marine and Coastal Act brochure 2, which alert people to the loss of our beaches. You know, we're in danger of losing all the beaches around New Zealand. The text is written by Graham Adams, who's a great author. These are now free. And then we have our beautiful bumper sticker, which we've just made. And why are we doing this? Well, New Zealand's identity is under threat. We know that. First activists have and are still trying to change the name of New Zealand to Aotearoa. We don't want that. We must oppose this. This is rubbish. Where's the referendum saying that we want to change the name of the country? There was none. It was just forced on us. Second, Maori sovereignty flags are appearing more and more all over the place, and they're just treason. So we've got to get these bumper stickers out. So we've printed some awesome bumper stickers. They're $3 each, and they measure 21.5 by 6.5, so you can see how big that would be on your car. To get any of these free products, all you need to do is pay for the courier to get them to you. For the products that cost something, like the bumper stickers or the little psychology booklet, it's the cost plus the courier to get them to you. So to order any of these products, just use this email address, cards@stopcogovernance.kiwi, and we'd love to hear from you. Finally, if you want to access all the videos we've ever made, including all our most viewed and most popular videos, and have them all in one place, which is what people are asking for, then just type in this address into your browser. There it is there, https www.youtube.com/@stopcogovernance, and you'll find it goes straight to our channel. Then what you do is save this address to your computer as a favorite. Job done. Well done. Then you've got them all in one place forever. And all the new ones that are coming in get placed into that address, so you won't miss anything. Okay, last thing, please, oh please, don't forget to subscribe. When you subscribe, you'll get the latest videos straight into your inbox. You'll never miss a video, which is great. You'll link up with like-minded people all over New Zealand, and that's very, very stimulating to have meet up with all these people who think like you. You'll be telling YouTube, I like these videos, and they will respond by advertising our videos to more Kiwis for free. It's incredible what they do, but it just relies on you replying to comments and making comments and liking things and sharing things and activity. That's what it is. It's just activity on our channel. And turning New Zealand around is simply a matter of reaching more Kiwis with the truth. So just click on the subscribe button on the bottom right hand side of your screen. There, the little yellow arrow is showing you where it is, and you'll be subscribed. Okay, see you next time. You guys are awesome.